Hello, and welcome back for another week of reading of me, Valerie Monroe, and my great reading buddy, Bookwormy! It's a whole new week. It's a whole new week. That's right. We're here to continue the story of Down the Swale, although, to be quite honest, we're getting close to the end. Tell them about last week. Okay, if you remember last week, let's see, John, Elaine, Brogdon, and his aunts, and Fred and Nancy, they all came up with a plan to try to prevent Mackie and Simp from getting to Maggie. And they all had different jobs. If you remember, John had some bags of something. Elaine had been practicing her sailboating, and she was really terrible. Aunt Gladys was just sitting, and Aunt Hazel was collecting something in a jar. Oh, here's my cat, Poe. Poe, say hi to everybody. Poe, we're going to keep reading, even though you're trying to. Oh, wait, hold on. Okay, there goes Poe. Okay, so while they were all getting ready for their parts of the plan, Mackie and Simp had been driving up and down Lake Wahakmo. Remember, they had some kind of little gauge, and it was able to hear if Maggie made any noises. It's kind of pinpoint her location. So this is where we'll pick up. The needle was almost pinned down to the top of the gauge. There, Simp yelled. That way, turn. His voice was high and squeaky with both disbelief and triumph. But there's an island right there, Mackie pointed out. Exactly. That's where she must be. On it, or under it, or around the other side of it. That's where they're hiding her. Simp could barely get the words out fast enough. Mackie didn't need to be told twice. He lowered the throttle, and the bow of the boat rose into the air like a shark. Dun, 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 dun. Heading for its prey, it accelerated full speed toward the island. It's showtime, Fred announced to Nancy. The two ducks flew ahead of the boat, quacking in alarm to John and Elaine. As the boat reached the water surrounding Sunset Island, Mackie manned the wheel while Simp opened a large black sack and removed several harpoons. Then he took out the rifle. Oh, this is terrible. And tossed it to Mackie. Be careful, it's loaded, Simp warned. His eyes had narrowed into sinister slits, like those of a tiger on a prowl. Hanging onto the steering wheel with one hand, Mackie caught the rifle in the other. The boat jumped up and over the choppy waves and thumped hard each time it landed in the water. Hey, slow down, Simp ordered. Something's up there. In the water. Slow down. Simp pointed in front of them. What the? Ducks, Mackie yelled. It's ducks. He tried to slow down, but it was too late. Fred and Nancy were floating in the water, seemingly without a care in the world, directly in the path of an oncoming boat. I can't stop. We're going to hit them, Mackie shouted. Hang on. Move, you lousy ducks. Move. Don't hit them, you fool, Simp yelled. They'll get caught in the propeller or something. He aimed at the ducks and threw one of the harpoons. At the last possible second, Fred and Nancy beat their wings and rose into the air. Oh, it's hard to even read this part, but not before the spear of the harpoon crashed into Fred's right wing. Simp let out a wicked cackle as he reeled in the harpoon's line. It was covered with bright red blood and purple and brown feathers. Fred, Nancy quaked. Oh, my poor darling. She landed and paddled over to where Fred lay floating, motionless, as the wake tossed him about. Oh, poor Fred, she sobbed. Now let's keep going with Mackie and Simp. Slow her down now, Simp demanded as they approached the island through the narrow passageway on the north side. He held up a map of the lake that he'd found in the glove compartment of the boat. There's low spots here. Now, if you know anything about boating, you have to really be careful of the low spots so that your boat doesn't hit the bottom and maybe break off your propeller or something. I've done that actually. What's that up there? Maggie called out, gesturing to something ahead of them in the passageway. Oh, it's a dang sailboat, Simp grunted. The sailboat must be Elaine in there. In front of them seemed to be in trouble. The sail was up and then down. It spun around in one direction and then in the other. Several times it pitched at a dangerous angle, inches away from capsizing. It was entirely unclear where it was trying to go. Behind Simp's glasses, his beady eyes darted back and forth as he tried to discern the best way to get past it. Go left, Simp ordered. But when Maggie steered that way, the sailboat abruptly turned to the left. No, right, Simp screeched. Head right. Maggie adjusted their course, and then the sailboat came about to the right. No matter which way they went, the sailboat followed, remaining in their path. Oh, darn, growled Simp. That thing's nuts. On the sailboat, Elaine tried to remember everything she knew about the direction and speed of the wind and vectors and all the other factors of sailing. But her mind was overwhelmed with the jib and the boom and the rigging. She was unable to get the sailboat out of the way of the approaching speedboat. We're going to crash, hollered Maggie. Hey, watch it, Elaine called over to them. You watch it, lady, Simp retorted, his eyes wild. Maggie tried to turn the wheel, and at the last second, he threw the boat into reverse. But it was too late. The sailboat tossed and turned and seemed to throw itself right at their boat. With an ear-splitting crunch, the bow of the speedboat ripped into the side of the sailboat, and the force sent the boom into Elaine. It knocked her off her feet and straight into the water. Hey, who do you think you are? She gasped and sputtered, shaking her fist at the men. Maggie and Simp ignored her and continued forward. We're almost there, whooped Simp with one eye on the monitor and one eye on the island's beach. The crash had torn a large hole into the underside of the bow of the boat, and water was beginning to seep into the bottom. Maggie pointed to the pool of water, which was rising rapidly. We better dock soon or we're going to go down, he said to Simp. Simp ignored him. His eyes were mad and glittering, fixed on the island. There, he said, he ordered, that beach. Maggie turned the boat toward the cove, and it shuddered violently as it unexpectedly hit bottom. What in the world? Maggie screamed. On the beach, John was feeding potato chips to a flock of seagulls who were relentlessly demanding more. Watch out for the rocks, he called to the two men in the speedboat. We're sinking, Maggie called to him. We're sinking. Hold on, John replied as he waded through the shallow water to the sinking speedboat. And then he said to them, do me a favor, would you? Jump out and feed my pet seagulls for me, and I'll pull your boat in. Deal? I don't know if you remember these seagulls from earlier in the story. Maggie and Simp nodded, then cut the engine and abandoned the boat. They scrambled over its side, standing knee-deep in the water. John tossed them each a bag of potato chips and began toward their boat. Immediately, the seagulls swooped down upon the two men. More! They screeched. More! You've got to feed them, John instructed as he grabbed hold of one of the cleats on the side of the speedboat and began tugging it toward the beach. He caught sight of the harpoons and the rifle, and a shudder ran through him. Are you gentlemen out fishing or something? He inquired politely. None of your business, sneered Simp. More! The gulls continued to beg. Throw the chips faster, John said. They're hungry. He continued towing the boat in. Hey, Mackie said, shoving a handful of the chips in his own mouth. You got any more of these? Crumbs blew off his lips and into the air. Nope, that's it, replied John. He let go of the boat. It was too heavy to pull any further. The gulls kept squawking for more. They swooped in closer to Mackie and Simp in a frenzied swirl of thumping wings and pointy beaks. Hey, I'm almost out, said Simp, peeking into the bag. All I got left are crumbs. Me too, echoed Mackie. His chin was all greasy. I guess from eating all those potato chips. The greedy cries of the seagulls became frantic, and they began pecking at the empty bags. Call them off, Maggie said nervously. Call them off, man. John dove into the water and swam away, just as the birds descended upon the two men, ripping the empty bags apart. Mackie and Simp swatted and flailed at them, trying to escape, but the seagulls were merciless. Help! Help! Mackie pleaded, and a shot rang out through the air. Simp had managed to stumble to the boat. He retrieved the rifle and frantically fired it. The startled birds scattered, flying off in all directions. The two men looked at each other bewildered. They were scratched and covered in sticky, smelly bird droppings. Ew, Mackie whined and pointed to Simp. Simp wiped his glasses on his shirt and ran his fingers through his matted hair. Oh, never mind, Simp sneered. We've got no time to lose. I know the monster is in that house, he proclaimed, pointing ahead. Let's go. And that's where we'll stop for today. Oh, no. Do you think that they're going to find Maggie in the house? I certainly hope not, but it's looking like that could happen. Please join us tomorrow and see what happens next. Yes, please come tomorrow and read some more with us. See you then.